Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's episode of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and hanging out with me for a little bit. Always grateful to have you guys around here. Today, we're going to be talking about a study that the Alabama Conservation Department did, and they spent almost $1 million on this study to determine how tournaments are affecting bass mortality. And guys, they came up with some super interesting findings, and I'm sort of going to read that off to you guys in today's video. We're going to have some commentary on it, and I'd like to get your guys as well. Also, guys, before we get started, just two quick things I want to remind you of. Got spring coming up, right around the corner here. I'd like to invite everybody to swing by and check out my Fish the Moment Spring Lake Map breakdowns we got up on the website. Great resources to get some good places for your favorite lake spring fishing right around the corner. I'll put the link in the description to my lake map breakdown. And also got a new shipment of my Blaukat throwback jigs in at Taco Warehouse this month. I highly suggest guys getting this one here. This is the brown and orange, put you a green chunk on there. Excellent lure in the month of February and March. 3/8 or ½ ounce size, so I'll link that in the description there too. Really appreciate that. Okay guys, we all know that bass tournaments are terrible for bass. We all know that bass tournaments kill bass. We all know that fishing has gotten tougher because of tournaments. For the little bit of good that tournament fishing has brought into the sport, it's done a lot of damage to our fishing as well, and continues to do so as long as we have tournament organizations that don't make the right decisions when it comes to some of the stuff we're going to talk about. So anyway, guys, I want to talk a little bit about this. I'm going to read you some statistics. This article, it came across my feed. I saw it on a YouTube channel named Aaron Keller had this on there, and apparently he found out, or he saw it from an article that was on Wired to Fish. So I got to give credit to both Aaron Keller and Wired to Fish for this information here. But anyway, what the deal was is the Alabama Department of Conservation, they conducted a 3-year study in correlation with Auburn University in Alabama. This was a 3-year study on this delayed mortality of black bass. And this study cost $843,000, almost $1 million they spent on this. So this is a detailed, thorough study that took a long time to be able to come up with the conclusions that they came here. Now, a lot of this stuff I could have already told you even before the study because I've seen it on my own firsthand experience, but I'm going to read you guys some of the highlights of what they found. Okay, now according to the 3-year study that they did, they found out that nearly 45% of the bass that were weighed in suffered either pre or post-release mortality. And then the figure jumped to 50 to 80% delayed mortality in hot weather. And the rates also increased in correlation with the rise of high school and college events that are, increasing like that. So we've talked a lot about this on the channel, guys, as far as the delayed mortality from bass for a lot of different reasons. There's two factors in my opinion on this. Number one is hauling them around in a live well all day long, especially in warmer water. And the second is this increased mortality that we're seeing as a result of live scope and forward-facing sonar creating barotrauma issues for the fish. Now, barotrauma issues, guys, if you're not familiar with it, it's one of the prime drivers in delayed mortality on bass because let's say, for example, if somebody's using their cheater box to catch some fish out off the shore and they catch these fish deep, once they catch these fish and bring them to the surface, even if they release them right then, a lot of times, they suffer this delayed mortality because it has the barotrauma creates this eye damage and internal organ damage that's not visible right off the bat. So sometimes this mortality can, take a couple days to take effect. They can turn them back on the water and they're fine, but the delayed mortality from the barotrauma issue usually takes a while to affect the bass. So just chalk up another reason to hate the cheater box out there. Okay, then other findings, they found that that female bass suffered a higher mortality rate, both pre and post weigh-in, simply because they were targeted more by the tournament anglers. Everybody's after bigger fish, therefore a lot of the bass that are weighed in are females, which is a really bad thing because since you're basically killing 40 to 80% of the female bass population that you catch in these tournaments, look at where's your brood stock coming from. So it doesn't take Einstein to figure out that that's not a long-term sustainable model. And then third one that I found pretty interesting, they said 70% of the bass that died from delayed mortality were caught by anglers in the tournament that didn't win any money. So you got 70% of these bass that are dying, and guys didn't get any benefit whatsoever from it. They didn't even win a penny. And the suggestions that they had here, which is, I've talked about this a lot, the Alabama Conservation Department, trying to figure out what they can do about this. The first one is they said they need to limit tournament size and the tournament frequency. Second is hold tournaments in cold weather months. And the third is to institute a catch and release format. I could have saved the state of Alabama $1 million because I've been preaching this exact same stuff for the last 5 years on the channel here. And everybody knows it, guys. There's no mistake about it that tournaments are terrible for the sustainability of the fisheries. And with the advent of live scope, it makes it even 100 times worse. Live scope and forward-facing sonar is accelerating this pre and post delayed mortality within the fish, and it will continue to do so. So I'm going to add to this here the solutions that I have. Here's my solutions. Number one, get rid of the cheater box. Out of anything here, the cheater box is responsible for more delayed mortality than any of this stuff, and it's going to continue to even get more and more with that. Get rid of that stupid cheater box. We don't need it. The tournaments, we've always talked about this before. There's way too many tournaments. I mean, I think I mentioned, guys, I was at Table Rock Lake last April, and there was 1,000 tournament boats on the lake that one particular day. Most of these Chamber of Commerce and the people that manage the lakes across the country, they don't give a crap about the lake. All they want to do is they want to have tournament anglers in there. The more they can get in there, the better, to try to stimulate the local economy. These guys don't fish. They don't know anything about it. They're just, Chamber of Commerce workers trying to get more tournaments in there. And that's one of the biggest things about it, is we have got to get people in positions of power on the local level around these lakes, whether it be the conservation departments or the lake patrol or the Chamber of Commerce, that say, hey, you guys aren't going to do that. We're not going to let you goobers have 500 or 1,000 tournament boats on a lake in one day. There's 52 weeks out of the year. If you want to have a tournament, you got 52 weeks to schedule them out. We're only going to allow one tournament per day on these lakes. So it's pretty easy to fix with that. Next one, we talked a lot about fishing, having those tournaments during the cold weather months. There's no reason to have any tournaments past the spawn. It's like every tournament, guys, in my opinion, should be between like November and March. That's the way it used to be. We used to have a lot of tournaments during that time frame, but guys started whining and complaining that it was interfering with their deer season. So make up your mind. Do you want to bass fish or do you want to hunt deer? We need to have these tournaments in cold weather months all the time. And that delayed mortality rate is going to go down tremendously, especially if you get rid of the cheater box. If you start having these tournaments when the water temperatures are in the 40s and 50s, and you get rid of that cheater box that's causing all this, barotrauma within the fish, we're going to save so many more fish with that. And then finally, the obvious, guys, the days of weigh-ins should be over. It's like that. I got to, give credit to MLF on the Bass Pro Tour. That's the best thing about the whole Bass Pro Tour is the catch and release, live weigh-in. They just weigh them in and turn them back right there, and as soon as they catch them. Every bass tournament in this country should be like that. They need to figure, if they have issues with, people cheating or potentially cheating, they need to figure that out. The well-being and the sustainability of the bass is more important than a very rare, once in a while cheating situation within the sport. They can figure that out by having marshals in the boat or, cameras or whatever it may be. But we have got to, that whole thing about, bringing fish back into the weigh-in and dragging them around in the boat all day has got to stop. I've had situations, because what happens, guys, if you catch, say, for example, you're fishing 40 or 50 miles down the lake and you run in, you got your limit of fish in the live well and it's choppy out. Maybe there's a bunch of boat wakes. You're up at Lake of the Ozarks on a weekend. Guys, those fish are like in a washing machine in a live well. They're banging up against the sides and it knocks their scales off. One of the most sickening days I ever had in my life, that I was just disgusted with myself for what I'd done, is I had made a super long run in this tournament and I ran back it was like a 70, 80 mile run. And I ran back and I had to push it hard because I was running low on time and it was rough. And guys, when I got back to the weigh-in, there was the bottom of my live well was full of scales. The fish, it looked like I had scaled them with a knife. I felt terrible. I just felt absolutely, disgusted at myself that I had did that to the fish, because I'm sure every one of those bass died. And if I had the ability to have released those bass as soon as I caught them 60 miles from the weigh-in, none of that would ever happen. So ultimately, guys, this all falls on the tournament organizations. Like I've said, I've said it over and over again. We do not have the brightest minds running our tournaments. The tournament, the management within these tournament organizations do not have the best interest in mind in terms of what we just talked about here. The number one thing should be the sustainability of the fisheries. And from what I have seen, that's not their number one priority. Their number one priority is try to make as much money as they can as the tournament organization, however they can do that. And in the process, the bass get a back seat to them, and you see the problem we have right now. So anyway, guys, the only thing I can suggest on this thing is just, email the tournament, email Bassmaster, email MLF, let them know that that delayed mortality from preventable means is unacceptable, and start taking steps within the rules to protect the sustainability of our fisheries and not kill these fish. It's not that simple. I mean, it's not that easy. It's not that difficult to do that. So, guys, let me know what y'all think about it. We'll talk later.